There is blind justice, and then there is trading justice, so that you can finally afford to get that laser eye surgery. Not only will people find you more attractive once you ditch those old glasses, you'll be able to see your charts better. That's what we call win-win. Speaking of winning, it's time for a little trading justice. Brought to you by TackleTrading.com.
Welcome out to Trading Justice Podcast, episode number 3. Matt Justice along with Tim Justice here. Tim, how are you doing today?
Doing really well, Matt. Doing really well.
Awesome. How's the trading coming?
You know, been active. The market's been pretty interesting. I know that we've had some volatility pick up a little bit from where it was recently. But honestly, you know, you get this time of year in May and you start thinking about camping trips and that, you slow down just a little bit. I think it's natural for most of the market.
Speaking of camping, I'm going camping this weekend.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, yeah. Going to go up there, going to leave it all out there, going to throw the cell phone away, get out there for about 3 days and not respond to email, not look at the market, go do some terrible fishing because I can't fish, but I'm going to do it anyways.
Well, you know, one day I'll teach you how to camp and fish. I know pulling a trailer up on top of the mountain is one of the most beautiful things in the world, but it's not exactly roughing it there, my brother.
That is roughing it. Are you kidding me? You have no cell phone service. There's no internet. There's a few things like that. But it's not exactly like being at your house. It's roughing it for me, let's just say that.
Okay, gotcha.
So,
yeah. Well,
hey,
go ahead.
I was going to say, real quick, both of us have been getting a lot of emails from our students, from people we know, about how this market's a difficult market to trade in. How this market is a frustrating market to trade in. And I want you to speak to that real quick about how you're approaching the difficult market, and even if it is that difficult when you compare it to some historical movements.
Yeah, well, I mean, let's actually look at it in context. The market is on average moving about 1% a day. That's not a real volatile market. I think one of the reasons why it feels difficult for some traders is the implied volatility in the market is at a low point, which is a reflection of options prices for those out there. Who's our audience anyway, Matt? We got beginners, do you think? Advanced people?
Well,
you know?
I think there's a combination. I think there's beginner traders that are just getting out there, getting new to the market, learning how to trade it. And then I think we got some very advanced traders out there who have been trading in the markets for, 3, 4, 5, 10, 20 years. I've got emails from people who've been in the market for 10 years that are listening. So it varies, I suppose.
I think that one of the reasons it feels difficult for some traders is if they're sticking to credits, which is generally what you're going to get mentoring on, and most advanced traders will tell you, do the credit spreads. And if you're sticking exclusively to credits, the low implied volatility in this market, we're at historic lows, and it's been down here for a long time. That's where some of the difficulties coming in my opinion, especially short-term options that can become gamma sensitive. But, if you're looking at the big picture and day trading and things like that, I think there are some more clear signals people let on right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I was talking in a lab the other day, and there was, I don't want to say complaining because it certainly wasn't that. It was just more of, I can't find a trade. It's really hard. I'm getting kicked out. The routine and how this market is impossible to trade in. And I just wanted to say, well, in comparison to, 2011, August when the market the Dow Jones was moving 400 points a day in comparison to some other times. I mean, we are talking about a volatility that's really, really low. I mean, what you're talking about, the biggest problem is volatility. The volatility is really low, so you're not getting the credits that you historically were, and that's frustrating. Other people aren't referring it to that. Other people are saying this market's impossible market to trade in because it's not going up. And I think that's the problem, is they just see this marketplace and it's just not going up, and that's how they think about trading or investing, is their investments aren't going up, their 401ks aren't going up, their mutual funds aren't going up. And they're right, that they're not going up. They're going sideways right now, and some are actually going down. And so I think that's where the difficulty lies, is things just aren't going up. They're going sideways to a large extent. The market's going to go up a day, down a day, up a day, down a day. But I certainly wouldn't say this is a volatile market in comparison to 2011, and even in comparison to 2010, the summers of 2010, 2012. I think you're seeing a market that is very, very cautious right now.
And a lot of that, Matt, and I can appreciate a new trader.
Absolutely.
You get involved in their perspective on that. You get involved with this stuff, and you want to see consistency. Well, the market's not an ATM machine, and you're not going to get a paycheck every Friday. It's not how it works. Now, you can set short-term goals, and you can drive yourself towards that. But experienced traders, they usually have the context to know that if they have a down month, it's just 1 month out of the 12 in the year. And really, you measure yourself over the long haul in trading.
Yeah.
Drawdowns are natural. Drawdowns are a part of what happens in your account. And so that's where experience really can make a difference with your confidence, because attitude is everything, in my opinion. And you got to have the confidence to know you're running your system. Even if you lost that week because of the market volatility, you still have to have the confidence to turn your account on, go through your routine, and run your business every day.
Have you ever noticed when you do this all the time, when you're making an important point, you will snap 3 times? Have you ever noticed that?
Me personally?
Oh yeah, you do it every time.
Man, I don't know. Yeah, I have never noticed that. I probably have a lot of weird idiosyncrasies and mannerisms.
I noticed it last night when we were teaching currencies, and I hopped on to the end to talk about currency mentoring and whatnot, and you were making your last point, and it's just that standard 3-snap, boom, 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 and what it made me think about is, what do I do? Because I'm sure every single one of us, when we're teaching online or doing something, we have these mannerisms that we don't even consciously, recognize. We just do them. Yours is you snap 3 times. I get a kick out of it every time. When we were talking about currencies, not last night, but the day before, I was talking about the future of the currency system and how we're moving away from the U.S. dollar as the reserve currency. You're seeing a fundamental shift from a global marketplace, where almost every market entity wants to move away from the dollar as the reserve currency. You've seen back in 2000, 70% of the world reserve was the U.S. dollar. Today, that's 60%. The petrodollar in 1999 was 90% of the world oil market, finance world oil market. That number is less than 40% today. Quantitative easing is putting pressure not only in terms of the value of the U.S. dollar, but it's putting pressure amongst the global marketplace, because you not only have the U.S. printing money, you have many other sovereign nations printing money as well. And we're starting to see a shift that we haven't seen in our lifetimes, from away from the U.S. dollar to something else. And the question was brought up is, what about Bitcoin? That was the question. What about Bitcoin? And you and I have differed on Bitcoin a little bit, and for a variety of different reasons, right? But I want to talk about Bitcoin for a little bit, just to kind of catch people up about what this is, why it's important to understand it, and kind of our take on where we see Bitcoin going in the future. So Tim, kind of, I don't want to say the resident expert, but in this little podcast of 2, I would certainly put you in that light. Can you talk about exactly what is Bitcoin, when was it created, and how it is utilized?
Sure. First of all, it's one of my favorite things to talk about, literally at parties and over coffee, with traders and non-traders alike, with my old buddies that I went to college with and that we hammer out politics about. I talk about Bitcoin. I think it's one of the most fascinating developments in society right now because of what it represents.
Very quickly, when you talk about Bitcoin amongst just the common areas of your life, like at parties and over a beer, people who are not your traders, right? How do people even know what this is?
Yeah, actually, yeah. Well, I mean, some of my friends are made-up intellectuals. They think they're smarter than they are, so they usually dig into stuff like this. But, I have law school friends, and so, some of them do. A lot of them do. I'd say the average person does not, though, and they especially don't understand how it works. And I don't try to explain it. I'm not that stuffy. I'm not that boring at a party. So it's usually with the guys that I know already have opinions about the global economy or politics. Those types of people that you have, those friends you have in your life that you can talk politics with. But not everybody knows much about it. Hardly anybody does, actually. I know that even myself.
I saw a statistic the other day that 73% of the U.S. population does not know what Bitcoin is, has never heard the phrase Bitcoin.
And out of the 27 other percent, I bet 25 of them don't understand what it actually is.
Or how it's even created, right? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Bitcoin is digital currency. That's one way to say it. You can have a physical Bitcoin, but that's more of a novelty that these Bitcoin guys developed. They put a little code in the coin. It's kind of dumb. They just wanted to be able to hold them, I think, and take pictures of them. But in a vast degree, it's a digital currency that you use online from peer-to-peer payment systems. Mm-hmm. And it's not regulated by anything. And so what that means is that it's decentralized, you could say, or it's not a fiat currency because there's no government involved in Bitcoin. The first thing, before we get into any of that, I think we just need to understand how it was created. It's only been around 5 years, Matt.
Yeah, since, 2009?
Yeah. Yeah, and an anonymous developer wrote an algorithm and a code for this. And he set it up to where there's only a certain amount of Bitcoins available. Now, to get these codes, you have to run a software program on your computer, which basically just runs and runs and runs and runs on its own. You don't sit there and type anything in. You don't have to develop it. You just have to have the computer power to install it and run it. And what happens, that's what they call mining.
And and how are these miners paid, basically?
They are paid in Bitcoins. So because you have this transaction system that's digital, you don't have anybody watching it. The miners actually serve a demand. They have to be the ones to make the transaction codes happen. So like if I pay you 50 Bitcoins, Matt, the only way that my account and your account know to have that happen is one of the miners' computer systems comes in and processes that transaction.
Well, if Bitcoin, because Bitcoin's going for about $500 right now.
I think
So it varies, but somewhere around there, depending on the exchange you're looking at. So why isn't it that every single person out there, instead of just going out there and buying Bitcoins, why don't they just mine?
It's
why don't you and I mine?
It's expensive. Your computer, your little laptop, like I use a little HP laptop I get from Costco. Yeah. It couldn't do anything. It wouldn't work anymore. In 2009, a laptop, you could have installed software and just had it running in the background while you did your work, and you would have got a lot of Bitcoins. Mm-hmm. Today, the mining what happens is over time, and it's designed this way. The guy who built it, he designed it this way on purpose. He made it so that the mining becomes more and more difficult because there's more code added to the blockchain is what they call it.
Yeah.
By the way, all this, it sounds like a movie. It's like
it does. It sounds like some type of 2010. It sounds like a movie back in 1995 that was projecting out society in like 2045. Right. And they were doing all these like flying cars and, all this, stuff. And all of a sudden we're talking in 2014 about mining, cryptocurrency, digital currency, and, creating this massive algorithm, this blockchain, right? It's amazing when you actually start thinking about where we are in 2014.
What was that movie with Wesley Snipes and
every awesome movie ever?
No, where it was about it was a futuristic movie in the 90s. Wesley Snipes.
Snipes in the 90s made tons of awesome future movies.
Demolition Man.
Oh, wow.
1993. And I'm trying to remember.
Sandra Bullock, Wesley Snipes, and who was the... Sly, man. Sly Stallone.
Sly Stallone. You bet.
Snipes, they all get frozen in time, right? And it's 40 years in advance. and Sly, is back from 1995, and he goes and he's trying to get. That is an awesome movie. Everybody go watch Demolition Man.
An awesomely bad movie. The one thing I remember in that, when you were saying about projecting the future, I think they said every restaurant's now Taco Bell.
Yeah.
Taco Bell took over the world. Yeah. But anyway, back on the Bitcoin stuff.
So anyway, it goes to this blockchain. The mining goes to this blockchain. The algorithm of the blockchain gets enhanced day after day after day. And right now we have 12 million Bitcoins in existence. That increases about 10 Bitcoins 25 Bitcoins about every 10 minutes at the current rate, right? And this, you said it's designed, this algorithm is designed to stop, and it's designed to stop right around at 21 million. So about every 4 years, basically, we see a reduction in, by about half in the amount of Bitcoins that are created. And a lot of people think that's an advantage to Bitcoin because you can't have a central bank that prints enough money where it causes hyperinflation and kills the currency. That's one of the pros that Bitcoin will be in existence because it can't inflate away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I guess there actually is quite an appeal to doing the mining, but anymore, and you go on like Amazon or eBay or whatever, you could Google this, and they sell these mining kits where it really is just about how much power it costs you to run them.
Yeah, and the electricity and whatnot.
Right, and they're not necessarily like a laptop, like you look like what you're using on my little HP here. They look pretty advanced, and they say it's even going to get worse and worse and worse. The one thing I find funny, I was reading online about this, and you know who's most upset about Bitcoin? Are hardcore gamers. Because they have to pay more for those really fast processors that they like to use, so they just whine and bitch about it.
We're not shy about gamers. We've been gamers in our lives as well. We know the mindset of the gamer, and they are up to. You want to talk about somebody who's technologically advanced? It's a hardcore gamer. They know exactly about the processors. They know about the video cards. They know about this spec and this headset and that. I mean, they're absolutely nuts about their gaming. Absolutely nuts.
Yeah. It always reminds me of that South Park episode about the World of Warcraft kid.
One of the greatest ones ever.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
Now, here's the thing about all this Bitcoin stuff is, where does it have a role in relationship to other currencies, and where is its future?
Well, is it a currency, Tim? Because the IRS doesn't classify it as a currency. The U.S. Central Bank doesn't classify it as a currency. China says it is fundamentally not a currency. There is no government out there right now that has classified Bitcoin as a currency. Some have classified it as a commodity, like property, like the IRS classifies it as property. Others classify it more as like a commodity like gold. But do you think this is a currency? Because many people that don't understand currencies, they think anything that is you can use to buy something as a currency, right? Okay, like literally anything, any commodities. Sex could be a currency in that capacity. And so the category for most currencies is there's three things. Number one, it has to be something that is stored of value. It's got to be a medium for an exchange, and it has to be a unit of an account. And whereas Bitcoin is right now, it's a medium of exchange. You exchange Bitcoin through a peer-to-peer system to purchase other goods and services, correct?
Yeah, that's right. So how does it not have value, though? A store of value. What does that mean?
Store of value. See, they get all advanced with this store of value, whatnot. Storage of value simply means there's other functions, like it's used to defer payment process. It's used to handle debt, like how the U.S. Central Bank has a bond, right? They sell bonds for government debt, so it's deferred payment systems, situations like that, and they do these complicated, criteria for what a currency is, because if they don't, then anything can be a currency, and they don't want to recognize anything as a currency. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, here I'm looking up I just looked up the definition. I thought, why not just get the real definition? It says it's a function of an asset that can be saved, retrieved, and exchanged at a later time. and be predictably useful when retrieved. And maybe that's the last part, because Bitcoin is not predictably useful. In fact, that probably is one of the reasons why you may not be able to classify it as currency, and that's one of the reasons why Bitcoin is a very difficult thing to wrap our head around. Mm-hmm. See, your account through a Bitcoin, you don't even have your name on the account.
Everything is just completely anonymous, right?
That was the whole appeal. Mm-hmm. The whole kind of philosophy. See, you have a lot of different people who are Bitcoin people, and some of them are the inner anarchists that want to get the government out of their, pockets. They want to have an anonymous account to where they can make these transactions.
Well, a naysayer would say, well, what are you trying to hide, right? That's what the right-wing Republican would say. What are you trying to hide? Why are you trying to, what are you trying to buy out there that you need to have it be anonymous? And it's becoming a problem in the terms of, this is what governments are putting out there in terms of propaganda to fight Bitcoin, because what are you trying to hide? What are you trying to buy out there?
Illegal activity.
Yeah.
Bitcoin is used in illegal activity. There are these exchanges, these dark markets. Do you know what Tor is? T-O-R?
Yeah, it's an anonymous search engine.
Basically. Yeah. What
military grade, by the way. Created by the military, created by the government, who is now trying to, limit it to a certain extent.
Right. The Tor is where drug dealers can go on some of the dark markets and the black markets, and they're constantly reinventing them and recreating them to make drug deals. And now this is not just what Bitcoin is, but this is what's in the news.
Tim, is that even a majority of the transactions that are done on Bitcoin? Is
no.
For these illegal activities. I think it's a minimal aspect of it. Maybe 10-15% of all Bitcoin transactions are done, for illegal drug purchases, money laundering, or whatever the case might be. But it's becoming out there in the news out there reporting that this is what it's used for, and it's like, well, don't drug dealers also deal in cash?
That's right. Yeah, I mean, they're using hard cash when they're making these transactions as well. I'd be very curious to know how much, money has changed hands just in U.S. dollars.
Probably the same percentage.
But it is an image thing, because a lot of people who criticize Bitcoin, they say it's just for these dark markets, and that's not necessarily true. It's one of the most fascinating things, if you ask me. I think it's a reflection of the continued failure of our government against the war on drugs. Now, you could get me to go off on that forever.
Well, let's go on that for just a second, because you said that we were on Facebook the other day. And I don't think we were debating it, because we all agreed, Jeff, you and me, we all agreed to a certain extent about what Bitcoin and Tor is and whatnot. But you made that comment about it's the continued failure of the U.S. government on the war on drugs. And although I don't want to go into too much detail, I want you to explain exactly what you mean by that.
People who want a fix are going to get a fix. I work downtown Salt Lake, and my office is right near a lot of the homeless shelters and halfway houses and whatnot, and I see drug transactions every day. Right or wrong, drugs are a part of society, whether it's a prescription drug. And by the way, this is not just a low-income problem, obviously.
Yeah.
Prescription drug abuse in Utah, here in Utah where I live, is one of the highest per capita in the entire country. Mm-hmm. So it's people use drugs, Matt, whether it's alcohol, tobacco, whether it's whatever it is. People are going to find a way to use drugs, just like back in Prohibition when they just failed at stopping alcohol from flowing. Mm. They failed. I think the drug war has been a colossal bust. I could go off on it forever. But for a long time.
But you made that specifically in reference to Bitcoin.
Yeah. And the reason I say that is the Bitcoin is just one way for those transactions to be facilitated. Because Bitcoin it's like a supply and demand thing. Mm-hmm. There's demand for these transactions to happen, and so these people found a way to make it happen. They found a way through this anonymous digital currency to be able to make some of these transactions and move money around. Whether it's Bitcoin or something else, you could shut Bitcoin down tomorrow, and there would be another digital currency replace it.
Yeah.
I think that there's an expectation, especially with the younger generation who know how to use these computer systems now, and to where technology is getting so much more advanced. There's an expectation to be able to do what you want to do on the internet. And right or wrong, I don't think that you're going to see digital transactions for the dark markets go anytime soon.
No, they're here to stay. They're here to stay.
I also don't think that is dependent on whether or not Bitcoin is successful moving forward. Let me ask you that question instead of just throwing it out there yet.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think has to happen for Bitcoin to establish itself with more legitimacy?
Amongst the consumer populace, they got to feel safe with their money. I mean, people, they feel safe putting money in a bank because it has FDIC, right? Mm-hmm. It's insured. You put money in one of those Bitcoins, right? You put Bitcoin in, what is it called, a bank, right? Not a Bitcoin bank, basically, which you can
mm-hmm.
download to an iPhone or your computer or whatnot, mm-hmm. and it's not insured. And so if you get hacked and all your money is taken, there is no way to get that money back. It's not insured by anybody. And so there's always going to be that fear, but it's an irrational fear because, the percentage of the times that Bitcoin is actually taken and stolen, it's not very high. The percentage isn't very high. You can actually store your Bitcoin wallet on a external hard drive to where it has no access to the internet whatsoever. So one, it's gonna take decades in my estimation because consumers they're slow. They're very, very slow. They're fearful, and anytime that they don't have insurance in terms of their money, they're not going to get on board with this. But as more and more companies accept Bitcoin, you will see the popularity rise. You have mm-hmm. Tiger Direct, you have Overstock.com, you had before China put the lockdown on it, you had Baidu. You have literally about 50 different well-established companies right now that are accepting Bitcoin for purchases. And I was reading one of the from, I don't know if it was Overstock or Tiger Direct or one of those, but the CEO basically wrote an op-ed piece saying this is why this company, our company, is now accepting Bitcoin. And a lot of it is if a company sells a product, they have what's called a right of rescission, right? Mm-hmm. And they have chargebacks and all of this when you do it with the traditional payment system, when you deal with cash and credit cards and whatnot. Well, there's no chargeback if you use Bitcoin. The onus is on the consumer to make a buying decision, and mm-hmm. that's in my estimation that's how it should be. This right of rescission and this just chargebacks and whatnot, a lot of it is a protection mechanism against the ignorance of the consumer populace. And so they're saying, hey, there's no chargebacks here, there's no right of rescission here. You pay in Bitcoin, transaction's done. We delivered the product, we delivered the service, you bought the product, you bought the service, everybody's happy. And so that's one reason why, other corporations going out there. Another one is transaction fees. And what people don't realize is when you charge something to a credit card or whatnot, there's a fairly large 2, 3, 4% transaction fee. And that can add up to enormous cost. Well, in terms of Bitcoin, the transaction fee is nominal. And that's a big reason for international traders as well. If you're trying to ship money from country A to country B and you use a bank, you're going to be charged 4%, up to 4% of the transaction. Well, with Bitcoin, that's 1%. I mean, there's a ton of benefits for a company that is paying in Bitcoin. There's no third-party seizure. There's no taxes. There's no tracking. There's no transaction costs. And let's talk about tracking and the anonymous type of thing. Me, I don't want the government in my business in any capacity. But every time I use a credit card, there's a digital stamp on what I'm buying, whatever that is. And I'm not buying anything illegal, but why do we need a digital stamp on everything I'm buying? Where they can go back and literally see everything that I have purchased for whatever reason in the privacy of my own home or my own business or whatever the case might be. With Bitcoin, There's no tracking to that. There's no transaction costs, no chargebacks. There's a low inflation risk, and there's an extremely low collapse risk as well. So there's a ton of different advantages out there for consumers. There's a ton of different advantages out there for the corporations now that are utilizing Bitcoin. And I think you will see the more and more companies accept Bitcoin as a payment system, so to speak. The biggest con I see out there is, number one, not all places trade Bitcoin. There's actually a very minimal place that trade Bitcoin that accept Bitcoin as payment. The consumers fear due to just the lack of insurance. That's going to be a hurdle people have to get through. And also, right now, it's very volatile right now. You're talking about a currency or a property or a commodity, whatever the case might be. You're talking about a commodity that went from $10 at the beginning of 2013 to a high cost of about $1,200. And then reduced because of some of the things that happened with Mt. Gox and whatnot, down to about, what was it, 400 at the low end, 500 now. It's a very volatile. So if you're holding Bitcoin and it goes down in value, your purchasing power is going to go down. And so if you don't understand kind of how the risk associated to volatility goes, consumers, could have significant risk out there as well. So there are risks. I think the biggest risk to Bitcoin, though, is central banks and governments and regulations and whatnot. If somebody in the Bitcoin community does not get a handle on the regulatory issues with the governments, because you're going to see China and the U.S. and the Eurozone and the BRIC countries, and you're going to see everyone out there, they're going to take regulations too far, and it could put a tremendous amount of pressure on Bitcoin itself. And so, and that's not only in terms of the regulators. Bitcoin, these different exchanges, these major exchanges in Bitcoin, they have to come together and really put a face on what Bitcoin is, so that when they meet with the U.S. regulators and when they meet with the international trading community, that they create these regulations. Because I do believe Bitcoin will be regulated, Tim. And it's not going to be this year, and it's not going to be next year. But those discussions are already ongoing with regulators. Nobody has touched it yet, but you've already seen the IRS call it property. You've already seen, the U.S. government say Bitcoin can be taxed on. You can already write it off as a capital gains increase or loss. These conversations are already happening, but regulators, they have a tendency, because most regulators are kind of ignorant, to take it too far. Bitcoin has a responsibility. The major players in Bitcoin have a responsibility to come together and make sure regulations are appropriate and it doesn't challenge what the benefits of Bitcoin is, that peer-to-peer payment system. And you're also seeing peer-to-peer payment systems out there, with like Lending Tree and whatnot, where you have a peer-to-peer lending system where you're not using traditional banks. These concepts of peer-to-peer are increasing. I mean, Tim, there's no rule of law that says you have to use a central bank. There's no rule of law that says you have to use a bank in general. Peer-to-peer can work, and it can work if it's put out there appropriately.
Well, and what you're going to hear from the Bitcoin community or digital currency community in general is it may also be more types of digital currency than Bitcoin. It doesn't just have to be Bitcoin. But, I mean, there's a lot of interesting things you said there. One, I think, that was most important is regulation. Because I know myself, I wouldn't want to hold a lot of value, cash value in Bitcoin. I'm not going to put my savings into Bitcoin, but I might have a little bit and use it. You see what I mean? I think a lot of people, once they understand it, would probably keep small Bitcoin accounts so they can use it to make transactions.
Well, and honestly, you don't have to hold Bitcoin, right? You can go make a transaction from U.S. dollars, purchase Bitcoin, use the Bitcoin purchase to actually do your whatever you're buying. The transaction could take 3 minutes. You convert U.S. dollars to this or this currency to this, use the Bitcoin to make the transaction, and then you keep your digital currency in terms of, at a minimal risk from how many Bitcoins you're actually holding. The problem is if Bitcoin goes up, right? I mean, that's the problem. If you're doing that, and say you purchase, $5,000 worth of Bitcoin right now, and you go out there and you use that to buy whatever product you're buying, correct? And all of a sudden Bitcoin now is $1,000 6 months from now. You've given away opportunity costs there.
And, well, a lot of companies, just what you just described there, that 3-minute process, I actually think it's faster than that.
It is.
Because I think a lot of companies, they use software, or it may even be like an algorithm. I'm not sure how it works. I'm not an expert on it. But I know they just convert it right away.
No, it's right in your digital bank. It's just an app. You hit the button on your app and you can do it. I mean, it's same thing with banks, right? I mean, if you can take a picture of your check and it's all of a sudden in your bank account, you can log into your bank account through your app. You can transfer this money to this account, literally with the click of a button. It's the same process. It's a very quick process. It's just most people have never done it.
I think the best thing you and I could do, we should write a screenplay about the history of Bitcoin. I'm telling you, it could be a blockbuster Hollywood movie.
Well, we'd have to have Johnny Depp in it.
Right.
You'd have to have Johnny Depp in it. He would be the guy that is, the man behind the mask, so to speak, is playing Johnny Depp and making him do all these crazy things. It would be a great screenplay. The problem with it is neither one of us are writers.
No, not that type of creative writing. Maybe we could try. You never know. You can reinvent yourself, Matt.
No, I'm a hick from the sticks, man.
I do have one last thought, though. This is maybe one area that could really, and I don't know how it would work, and I don't know how it would function, but what if some kind of body, Bitcoin agency, whatever, advocates of Bitcoin, developed a derivative system to protect the value of Bitcoin, options. And that way institutions could buy and sell those options to hedge against the volatility. I think one of the things that people are afraid of is the volatility. That's not my original idea. I read that online. One of the Bitcoin advocates was saying, we need some kind of derivative product so that more institutions feel comfortable using Bitcoin.
Speaking specifically of the volatility, and just bear with me, I'm making a news-based trade right now. The Fed is announcing its minutes here.
3 minutes, yeah.
Yeah, so just putting some orders in. Oh, I love that news-based trade. Quick, easy, dirty, fun. Anyways, specifically of the volatility, isn't it normal to have such tremendous volatility in something that is so new?
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
yeah, absolutely. The fact that it's not a negative thing, it's just a reality. The fact that it's this new and it's just now being used and not many people know about it, it's going to go up and down a lot. It's the nature of the beast. It's what happens. Did you even listen to what I said a minute ago?
I was placing a trade.
I said, I think I read this idea online where if you build like a regulatory central body, like a Bitcoin advocacy group or whatever, and they create derivative products like options, that way institutions could hedge with them.
Yeah.
And then the guy who was talking about it, he was making a case that if they have options, it legitimizes Bitcoin almost instantly.
I agree to a certain extent, but wouldn't that increase the speculators already?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and it would make me worry that the system would crash, and it would also bring the sharks to the pool. I know. Believe me, as a trader who sees the markets.
You know exactly what you and I would do there. I mean, if you know what you and I would do there, you know what everybody else would do there as well. I think it would actually have a reverse impact, at least on the short term. You would see an increase in volatility on that. One last question I have for you is Bitcoin. Well, I have two last questions. Number one, in your opinion, where do you see Bitcoin 2, 3, 4, 5 years from now?
I think it's going to be a supplemental currency that people use to make transactions digitally with their phones, and it's just going to be a part of what people learn to use. I don't think it's ever going to replace or become a major player in holding on to long-term value. People aren't going to build up their savings accounts with Bitcoin. I think what has to happen is more people just have to make that first transaction. I've never even made a transaction with Bitcoin, Matt, and I know a lot about it.
Yeah.
So I think people got to make that first transaction, get the app on their phone. And I think because it's a supply-demand thing, if it can carve out a niche and makes even just a few things more convenient to do, it's going to stay, and it's going to grow.
Let's paint a picture real quick, okay? You've seen my currency discussion many times, the traditional currency discussion, right? Mm-hmm. By the way, the U.S. dollar just started selling. Here it goes crazy. We'll see if it lasts. Anyways, let's say we see the continuation of the reliance on the U.S. dollar as the reserve currency, and you see the Fed printing more money, and you see the dollar continuing to decline in value, and you see the fear of hyperinflation setting in. Do you think that the popularity of a digital currency that has a low inflation risk, that has a low collapse risk, will the popularity increase in that capacity?
Absolutely, 100%. Especially, and that's where, if the people who really want to push Bitcoin, which I don't really care. I mean, honestly, Bitcoin could crash and it wouldn't bother me.
Yeah.
But the people who really want to push Bitcoin and legitimize it, what they need to do is they've got to find a way to increase the confidence around how it works. And that's where all these ideas we've been talking about are so important, because when confidence is lost in the U.S. dollar at some point, it's already been going down for a long time. Mm-hmm. People don't have a lot of faith in our money, because they see inflation just affecting them at the grocery store and at the gas pump, for the last 10, 15 years. And when it gets worse, and I think it will, I think you and I both believe that, there's going to be a vacuum and an opportunity for something else to come in. Maybe it is a digital currency. It might be Bitcoin. It might be something else.
Well, you look at it right now. The dollar's declined in value by about 35% against every major currency out there since 2000. You're seeing inflation in the commodities like oil up about 660% since 2000. Food-based, the food index has increased 270% in that time frame. These are concepts we call hyperinflation, Tim. Mm-hmm. You're having a dollar decline. You're having commodities that impact consumers to a tremendous amount hyperinflate to a certain extent. And I think the popularity of something that just, and honestly, Tim, I mean, where I was on Bitcoin 6 months ago. I mm-hmm. said when it gets regulated, right? That's what I said. But in doing a little bit of research and looking into what Bitcoin is, what it was created, I think the low inflation risk, the low collapse risk, and I mean, when we're talking about a low collapse risk, we're talking about a currency that doesn't go away. People don't understand how many times in history, just in the last 100 years, major currencies have just went away. That have just hyperinflated away. You saw it happen in Brazil. You've seen hyperinflation in Mexico. You've seen it in Peru, Argentina. You've seen it in Hungary. You've seen it in the Weimar Republic in Germany. You've seen it in Poland. You've seen it in Russia with the ruble. You've seen currencies that either hyperinflate to the extent that they just literally just die. They go away. Mm-hmm. They kill the currency. Or two, you have 20-year cycles where things are very, very difficult for a lot of people. And that's scary. That's a scary proposition for what we're facing with right now. We're facing with hyperinflation in a lot of commodities out there. We're faced with, a devaluation of the U.S. dollar that will be ongoing for a variety of different reasons. And I think a cryptocurrency, a digital currency like Bitcoin, it can be an alternative. And that's where, we talk about the problems associated with Bitcoin, where, you might hypothetically get your digital purse taken away, right? Where you talk about the problems associated with, the traditional consumer fear just due to that, due to no insurance. You're talking about, the problems associated with, Bitcoin being used to purchase illegal goods and services. Those problems are in every other currency as well. That's the thing. They're out there. Those you can already get your money stolen from you. Your money's devaluing every day. Go, thank the Fed for that. You can already get, a currency that hyperinflates. These problems money is already used to purchase illegal items. And so it's all this fear is just based on a degree of ignorance.
Well, and even you and I, Matt, honestly, I think if we had people listening to this podcast who are Bitcoin people, they probably would like be rage quitting, deleting it instantly. Because I mean, even you and I who look into it, we dig into it, and I know quite a bit about it. I don't understand everything about it. Even like one thing that you said there just a minute ago about how you can have somebody go into your wallet and steal it from you. The Bitcoin people would literally, their face would turn red and say, no, they can't. And, they'd be pounding the keyboard, because
first
there's
of all,
a difference.
They can, okay? You have had Bitcoins that have been stolen. You've had Bitcoin wallets that have simply been found. I mean, one wallet that was found had like 200,000 Bitcoins in it.
Holy cow.
200,000 Bitcoins in it. I mean, just think about just finding that. Oh my goodness, look what we just found. But I'm saying the risk is significantly low in that happening. I mean, it's not something that, a Bitcoin bug, so to speak, like we have our gold bugs. It's not something like a Bitcoin bug would really concern themselves with, because it's just, why would they concern themselves with somebody stealing their wallet when it happens 0.0001% of the time, right?
Right. Well, and also they will tell you that every Bitcoin transaction is public information on a thing called the blockchain.
Yeah.
I don't really know exactly how that works, but conceivably, if you had a smart enough software guy with a powerful enough algorithm, might be able to go back and find where all those stolen Bitcoins went, right? Mm-hmm. And but I don't know. I mean, that's there are websites out there designed for Bitcoin discussion forums and boards. Honestly, I can read them and just listen to these guys argue back and forth. It's just kind of fun.
Well, there's so much debate about it because nobody even really talked about Bitcoin even 6 months ago, right? Yeah. I've been teaching currencies, Tim, for 5 years. 5 years. I just barely started putting Bitcoin into the discussion a couple months ago. Mm-hmm. I was only started getting asked about Bitcoin about 6 months ago, and it's because the price exploded. I mean, it was at $800, $900, $1,000, $1,100, $1,200 for it, and then you had the Mt. Gox situation happen where basically some hackers broke in and stole about $400 million worth of Bitcoin at the time. And Mt. Gox obviously went bankrupt after that, and it was obviously concerning to everybody. But when these things start getting into the mainstream newswire, all of a sudden people start asking about it. And every session I teach, like for example, Tim, I was in Austin, Texas the other day, okay, giving a 3-day seminar on teaching people how to trade, and I was asked more questions about Bitcoin than I was about gold and silver. We gave a discussion yesterday about Bitcoin, and we had questions about, what is this? What is this? Oh, Bitcoin's cool. This, and this, and this. We had one person, like when we mentioned Bitcoin 2 nights ago, you had, what is this? What is this? What is this? Right? Just the normal, what is Bitcoin? But then you had a couple people like, yeah, Bitcoin's cool. And then you had one person say it's a scam. It's a Ponzi scheme. Right? It's like, well, not really. Your saving, your retirement is a Ponzi scheme. Social Security is a Ponzi scheme. Bitcoin, not necessarily a Ponzi scheme there. So but it's getting out there in the mainstream, and the discussions are awesome. They're absolutely awesome.
Well, people are naturally resistant to anything new that is not what they are used to. And the idea of not having your name on your bank account just probably seems just crazy to almost everybody out there. But it's learning to think about it differently.
Yeah, but Tim, sorry to cut you off there, but if you went out to those exact same people and said, but you can have your bank account and every one of your transactions can be anonymous, those same people would be like, yes, where do I sign up? If it was done in a traditional banking system, right? If it had the letters FDIC insured on it, they'd be like, yeah, I want my purchases to be anonymous. I don't have anything to hide. I don't buy illegal items. I'm not importing, exporting illegal guns and weapons and drugs and this and this and this, right? I like the fact, call it our upbringing, right? very independent thought, very, these types of individuals. I like the fact that I can have my purchases be anonymous, that they don't have to be tracked, that you can't look up somebody's financial history for the rest of their lives. I like that. That appeals to me.
Yeah, it's a cool idea, and I think that it's got a chance to stay, and it'll be really interesting watching it over the next few years. Volatility is going to be high for a while just because it's new, like you're saying. It's going to be interesting to watch the government boards and how they get involved with it. I think a big part of Bitcoin's future might be whether a government decides to embrace it and call it a currency and help set up a regulatory derivative system, or whether they attack it.
Well, you're going to have China attack it. They're just going to do that. It's U.S. What is the U.S.? What is the Eurozone? What are they going to lead the charge in regulations? Okay, that's the biggest debate I see coming out. That's the biggest risk, and that's also the biggest thing that I could see could benefit Bitcoin as well. If you have some agency come out there and say, let's do what we can to regulate. Let's accept that Bitcoin is something that could be used to purchase goods and items. We accept that. How do we regulate it so that people can feel comfortable utilizing it in certain areas? Because Tim, more corporations are going to start accepting Bitcoin. That's going to happen.
Yeah.
I mean,
you can buy flights with Bitcoin. You can buy stuff off of, I think it's what is it, Tiger Direct and
Overstock.
Overstock.com. Yeah. And the more of these big names, these are big companies. The more of these names that come into the Bitcoin universe and start allowing transactions right through your digital wallet, right from your phone.
Tim, you can buy Sacramento Kings season tickets with Bitcoin.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, you can purchase many goods, and the appeal to these corporations is significant, just in terms of the transaction cost, just in terms of the no chargebacks. If you're a company selling a good or services, and there's no fear of a chargeback, we're talking about probably 18% of their overhead in some capacities.
Yeah, I've even seen small shops, Matt, here in Salt Lake that can accept Bitcoin. And it's very rare because a lot of people don't know how to do it. But even as a small retail shop, you could set up a system to where you could take Bitcoin. And if you learn how to do it, then you can instantly transfer it into cash.
I will tell you, if there's 2 states in the union that would lead the charge on accepting Bitcoin, it would be Utah and Texas. Those would be the 2 states.
Probably. I think you're right with that. Well, I mean, guys, you've been listening to a podcast that we're using to promote a website called TackleTrading.com. This is Matt and Tim Justice again.
Also for Trading Justice as well. We represent both of them. It's our podcast, Trading Justice. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Looking at this week, I don't expect, and Tim, you can answer this as well, I don't expect anything to change in the markets at any time soon. You're going to see some up and down. You're going to see some volatility spikes. You're going to see a volatility drops. It's just going to be more of the same for the foreseeable future, ladies and gentlemen. Trade with caution, lower position sizes, shorten time frames or longer time frames. But you got to keep on learning in this environment, because this is a great learning environment. It really, really is.
Yeah, especially if you want to get into learning how to play new products like forex or futures. If you've never done that, it's a good time to do some forex trading, because you can day trade that and just be gone out of it when you're not in front of the computer. So
the worst. Let me just end on just what can Matt complain about. Seriously, pick a direction. My hell, nothing frustrates me more than when a news-based event spikes down, spikes up, and literally does nothing, because all that happens is you get killed on the pip spread. It's BS. Pick a direction. Yeah, I lost money on my news-based trade.
The volatility kicked you, so it got you in, and then it swung right back. Is that what happened?
Okay, I was doing the dollar-yen. Put a sell stop right under support, buy stop right above support, or resistance. It triggered me in immediately, did nothing, came back out, just hit my stop loss, just literally within a tick, had a terrible fill rate, and now it's going down again. It literally doing nothing. I just want to punch my computer right now.
Sometimes you got to rage quit and then just like go for a walk.
Yeah.
You know, I'm a big believer in fresh air every couple hours when you're trading. So
I'm gonna go golfing.
Go golf or something. Yeah, take the rest of the day.
Did I tell you I bought a new club?
What'd you buy?
Got a new driver. Got a new 3-wood, top end, TaylorMade. Got it from our buddy Bo. His brother is a golf pro, and it got me a pretty good deal on it. I haven't hit it yet. I'm so excited to go hit that club.
Oh my! You know, there's nothing more exciting for a golfer than a new club, especially the driver. For a hacker like us who likes to just swing hard.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's always a good feeling.
You know how he sold it? We went golfing the other day, and I was using my mallet I use.
Yeah.
I was using that, and he basically non-stop making fun of me. Says I will never be a golfer, and he won't golf with me until I switch that club. But then he said, we were on. I can't remember what tee we were on, but he said, Matt, this club that I'm using right here, it's really forgiving. And I think he got sick of me spraying it left, spraying it right. But it's golf. It's the God's game, right? You just got to go out there and enjoy yourself.
Yeah, I do enjoy a good game of golf. So golf today and fishing this weekend. And
golf today, fishing this weekend, and then I'm in D.C. next week to teach some wonderful people. I'm in San Antonio, Texas the next week. I love Texans, by the way. I could live there. And then I'm in San Francisco the next week. So got a good stretch coming up, traveling around, teaching people the good word about investing.
Well, I mean, even your schedule right there is a reflection of why the market's not going to pick a direction anytime soon, Matt.
No.
A lot of people this time of year, it's graduation time for a lot of people in high school and college or whatever it may be. People are taking their families on vacation. You don't get as much activity, which is where the advice you gave a little bit ago was so good. Shorten your time frame, trade while you're there, get out of the market when you're not, or lengthen your time frame. Plan some that you might hold all the way through the summer.
Well,
you kind of have to go one way or the other with that.
I was talking to a trading buddy of mine, and we were both short the Russell 2000, right? And he was getting just frustrated with the up and down. And he said, well, what are you doing? I said, listen, I'm holding. I'm willing to take the upside risk. I'm just holding. Typically, I would get out, right? That's my style, get in and get it out. But it's not working right now. It's not because what's happening, even on an intraday aspect, you see the market trigger down, then it will trigger back up intraday. That typically it will trigger down, it'll continue to fade down, or it will trigger up and it'll fade up, right? It usually goes in the same direction of the open. But that's not what we're seeing right now all the time. We're seeing it trigger up, then down, then up, then down, then up. I guess you gotta get off the damn fence, pick a direction, trade in the direction. In my estimation, vast majority of what we're doing here is credit spreads. Credit spreads are doing good right now. They're not. You're not getting paid the percent that you were a few months ago, but they're still doing really good. With this no direction type marketplace. And then on the directional stuff, either shorten it or lengthen it. 4 out of the last 5 years, the markets went down during the summer. So I'm trading with the probability of that.
Awesome stuff. Enjoy the conversation, Matt.
Same
Appreciate
here.
It. Let's do it again next time.
Let's another podcast coming on Sunday, guys. So expect that. We'll prepare you guys for the week coming up on Sunday for Trading Justice, Tackle Trading. We'll see you next time. 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 We'll see you next time.
You've been listening to the Trading Justice Podcast. If you've enjoyed yourself and think that the conversations and topics we've covered are important, help spread the word. Give us your feedback. 5 stars on iTunes, like us on Facebook, and follow us on Twitter. The Trading Justice Podcast is proudly sponsored by TackleTrading.com. Get off the sidelines and get in the game.